Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Hi. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Needless to say, for those of you in the room, all of whom are friends and family and supporters, this is a very special night for College Now Greater Cleveland. Not a lot of organizations can celebrate not only 50 years, but foundations and funders and partners that have been with you for 50 years. So, very special night for us. Let me start a little bit. This event we started a few years ago called Invest in Success. And it was really our opportunity when College Now was sort of not necessarily the best known organization in our community to really recognize leaders who had done tremendous things to advance the educational opportunities for our children. So we started this, and the first person we honored was Pat Mullen, who is here with us tonight. He was a board chairman. And Jenny Brown, who had been a chairman of this board as well, many of you know. And Paul Clark for PNC, who's also with us tonight. And Margot Copeland, who unfortunately could not be here tonight, but I know some of the key bank people are here, and we're very grateful, Karen. So tonight, we have the pleasure of recognizing 4 funders. You're going to hear a lot more about it, who have invested in our work, who understood the importance of it, and over the 50 years have given us, in actual dollars, $42 million. But I suspect, I don't know if Dave Fulton's in the room, I said, how much would that be as investment guy? How much would that be, like, if you did the, present value and maybe $250 million, maybe, over 50 years. So it is really remarkable and how special about our community. Before I get going a little bit, I do want to thank all kinds of people, so bear with me. First of all, our sponsors, Medical Mutual. Andrea Hogman is here tonight, and a lot of team of her mentors for College Now. Many of the Benish is here tonight, and Megan Mihalko is a board member. She could not be here, but I know a lot of the Benish partners are here. We're very grateful, and you'll hear more about them in a little bit. And Huntington Bank, who is also a sponsor for ours tonight. Sean Richardson and Diane Downing are here tonight, and Diane's a board member, and we're very grateful. And of course, we couldn't lead this work without leadership at City Hall, and our mayor is here tonight, and Monica Price, his chief of education, is here tonight, and there's not a day that goes by that they don't think every day, especially our mayor, about what's best for every kid and for the least of us. And we are grateful that you are here and for everything you do to help us with our work. I believe there's also some of county council is here tonight, some city council people, and I believe how are you, Councilman Miller? I believe our county executive may be here later. I also would be remiss without thanking the College Now board and the staff. And I know tonight, not only is our board chairman here, Alan Copet, but there are board members, not just today's board members, but board members for many years. And we know you have choices about how you spend your volunteer work, and we are just so grateful over these many, many years that you have done it and supported us. And without any question, we have the best staff in town. They are remarkable. They come every day with a smile on their face and with commitment to the mission and with innovation and with purpose and with a we're not taking no for an answer kind of approach. And I would like our board members and our staff to stand, please, and be recognized. Needless to say, I could not do the work without them. And to Lauren Mastracco, Laura Wilder, Elizabeth Day, and Kitty Wysharski, who are responsible for actually putting this on tonight, special thanks to you guys, because I know these special events are difficult. And finally, before I move on to a little bit more about College Now, I do want to thank Greg Moore. You're going to hear about him later, but he came in tonight to celebrate this 50th anniversary. If you don't know the story, I'm going to let him tell you, but he also spent his day at his alma mater, Glenville High School, today, to talk to some of our AmeriCorps, and we are very grateful that you are here with us tonight. Thank you, very special. So the question is, 50 years, how did that all happen? And, it's a pretty interesting story, and I really love to tell it. But 50 years ago, actually a little bit more than 50 years ago, the managing partner of Benish Friedlander and an anonymous client, high net worth donor, and maybe you all know over there who it is, but I don't, wanted to pay for college for every kid in Cleveland from the Cleveland Public Schools. So this is like 1966, and so they show up in the schools senior year. They say, who wants to go to college? We've got the money. And almost nobody took the money. Why would that be? Strange. Well, they took 1967 off and spent time with counselors and admissions people and guidance folks and teachers and principals and university officials. And what they found out is that there's a middle-class secret. And if you're not coming from a college-going culture, and your family hasn't been talking about it since you were a little tyke, and your neighbors aren't talking about it, then college doesn't seem like it's for you, and you haven't done the things you need to do that by the time you're a senior, you would have needed to do them. And everybody in this room has either done it or helped somebody do it. And if you haven't taken the test, if you haven't filled out the applications, you haven't filled out the FAFSA or the financial aid, you don't just do this when you're a senior in high school, not very easily anyway. And so they took a year off and they took another tact, and they decided that what was needed was to hire a team of people that were embedded in the school building. And this is Old Cleveland Scholarship Program. And they put these advisors into the building and asked them to start working with the kids much earlier to do all the things you need to do, and bingo, it worked. So one of the things we are very, very proud of on this 50th anniversary is that this field called College Access now was born here in Cleveland, Ohio, and there are literally thousands of organizations like us in some form or other all around the country, because what we know is every kid has the opportunity to succeed if they're given the tools to take that opportunity. So over the 50 years, that work still continues. We still advise, last year, almost 30,000 people, including some adults. Over the course of our history, 350,000 people. This year, we'll give away about $3.5 million in scholarship in the course of our time, $75 million. And we keep innovating. And part of the way we keep innovating, and you'll hear me talk about it more later, is because we have not just funders, but true partners, thought leaders, people that work with us every day, sitting right here, and you're going to meet them in a little bit, who work with us to make sure the work isn't stale, that it's not stagnant. So we started a mentoring program to improve graduation rates, and now we have 1,200 mentors and 1,200 mentees. And these are kids that are Pell eligible, and they're looking like they will complete college at almost 80%, which is much better than kids that are Pell eligible across the country, which is about 40%. And more importantly, they're building social capital. These kids are meeting people that have jobs that they want. They have somebody to introduce them to somebody that works for the Plain Dealer, Greg, or works at Deloitte, Pat, or works at the foundation, Ron, that otherwise they might not know. And so it's a lot about having faith every day and believing that everybody should have the opportunity. So I'm going to pause for a minute, and we're going to play a little video that introduces you to our award winners tonight. College Now is proud that we were an innovator in this work 50 years ago. The work started because of a gentleman named Bob Copeland. He was the managing partner of Benish, and a client he had who was asked to remain anonymous that had a dream to put every student in Cleveland Public Schools to college, and they set up something called the Cleveland Scholarship Fund and went out to the schools and said, okay, we're ready to give you money, and they were stunned when very few kids took the money.
He originally first went out just to offer scholarships, and he offered 30 scholarships and no one took them. And he recognized that when no one accepted these scholarships, more needed to be done, and that these students needed to be educated about the opportunities to go to college, and they needed help figuring out how to do that. That was the foundation for College Now.
We've been partners with College Now for the last 50 years, and I think that partnership very much stems from the fact that the original trustees of the John Huntington Fund had great confidence in the founders of College Now and believed very deeply in their mission and the quality of their mission, essentially because it's very much in line with ours. It was then and it is today.
College Now has had an amazing impact. Thousands of students have been able to go to college because of College Now's advising, because of the scholarships. And College Now has stood the test of time because it has been clear about its mission, which is helping students, and particularly low-income, first-generation students, attain a post-secondary education. But at the same time that they've stayed grounded, they have also adapted to changing circumstances.
Without any question, the barriers to post-secondary are higher than they've ever been, and yet the need is so great. Because of the cost, because Ohio being 45th in affordability, we really need to help our students move to the next level. And so our work has gotten more intentional and broader and deeper, both in terms of our geography, but also into our programmatic initiatives, and I think it really is starting to make a huge difference.
College Now has empowered so many people. When I look at the map and see the number of areas and neighborhoods and communities that have been touched now since College Now has continued to expand and provide these opportunities, I think it's been tremendous for our region.
College Now's work is tremendously important because from a young person's point of view, it might be the lifeline that helps them succeed. It might change their life, and I know that it has changed thousands and thousands of lives over time. But just as it's important to those young people, it's important to all of us because we need those young people to be contributing to the current competitiveness of Northeast Ohio, but more importantly to the future and our ability to compete in Northeast Ohio.
When you work with kids and let them know that you understand and see something special in them, they can do phenomenal things. There's just so much more potential there than most people realize, whether it's a mentor, a parent, a friend, or a coach, or College Now, or the entire community, making sure they bring that out in people. When you are able to do that, all those other benefits of the region are going to start to happen because this person now understands what they're capable of.
The work is not done. We have so many people that aren't prepared to take the jobs of today, and students getting out of high school that need to move on to some kind of post-secondary. And without intervention, when you are not coming from a family that has gone to college or you don't have the resources, it can really be an obstacle. And I think our work is as relevant as it's ever been.
There are always going to be kids who need a college education and who come from backgrounds where that might seem like an unattainable goal. And having the helping hand of College Now is going to be vital to improving their lives. But it's also work that will never be done because our global competition is never going to end, and we're always going to need those young people to get the kind of education they can get with College Now's help. Neither one of those is ever going to go away. We have to keep at it.
The future of our city is our children. And if we don't make sure that our children have an excellent education, we are not serving them, and we're not serving the city, and we're not ensuring that Cleveland has a bright future.
I think College Now's mission is more critical today than it's ever been. And I applaud everything they are doing. If everybody in Cleveland could be a small part of that mission, we can be very successful.
Everybody should be as lucky as I am to come to work and do this work every day. And I think you get a little flavor of how fortunate we are in this community, not just to have the kind of philanthropy we do, but to have the kind of partnership and friends and people that experiment with us and give us a little tough love when we need it and let us fail if we do that too. And so with that, I would like to ask our recipients to come up. From the Cleveland Foundation, Ron Richard and Helen Williams. From the Gunn Foundation, Ann Mullen. From the Jennings Foundation, we have Dan Keenan and our Joanne Ann Juster here, great. And from the John Huntington Fund for Education, we have Anna Adams and Pete Adams. Please come join us. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. So, yeah, go ahead. We'll get them to you. I also want to recognize Dr. Mixon, who just walked in. Dr. Mixon was one of the first directors of the old Cleveland Scholarship Program, was our leader for many, many years, and I know he joined us tonight, and we're very grateful to have him here as well. And with that, I would like to ask Carolyn Beeler to come up, and who is a longtime advisor with College Now, and some of you may even know her from your days in school, and she's going to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
So as you can see, this is Dr. Mixon, and we're both old now, which is okay, but better to be alive and be old. Yes. You agree? I agree. Thank you. So it is my honor to introduce Greg Moore, the editor-in-chief for Deke Digital, an expert media company that works with chief executives on strategic knowledge distribution. Before joining Deke in 2017, Greg was editor of the Denver Post from 2002 to 2016, which won 4 Pulitzer Prizes during his tenure. Previously, he was managing editor of the Boston Globe, where he played a key role in launching the Globe Spotlight investigation into the Catholic Church. He has served on the Pulitzer Prize Board and currently is a trustee for the University of Denver, the Boettcher Foundation, and Polaris. In 2012, he received the Benjamin C. Bradley Editor of the Year Award from the National Press Foundation. He is a graduate of Ohio Wesleyan University and a proud College Now scholarship recipient. So it is my honor to please bring Greg Moore up.
Wow. First thing I want to say is I should have been in that movie, the Spotlight movie. People had asked me for a while, like, who do you want to play you in the movie if they do it on the Catholic Church? And I said, I want Wesley Snipes, but he was in jail for tax evasion. So, I had left the Globe in 2002. We had published the first of those articles right in January of 2002. And, sort of out of sight, out of mind. I was gone, I get it. But I did want to be in that movie after they won the Oscar. I'm going to say that. First, thank you, Carol. Thank you. You're going to hear more about her. And we have a long, rich, special history. I want to thank everyone for being here, especially the mayor. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting the mayor personally, but I've heard a lot about him. We have a lot of mutual friends, so thank you for being here. I want to thank Laurel and the rest of the College Now staff for inviting me here. It's really quite an honor. I know I've been excited all day, and I know you thought I was going to hyperventilate here, but no. I also want to congratulate College Now of Greater Cleveland on its silver anniversary. You've been doing important work for a really long time, and it's really heartwarming to see your efforts recognized here tonight. It's a very special evening for you and for me. So 35 years ago, when I was a reporter at the Plain Dealer, I used to cover speeches at the City Club. I don't think this was the room, though. The City Club that I was in was like in a really old building, and it had big columns and all this. But anyway, I used to cover a lot of speeches there, and over the years, I've thought about the City Club, and it's long been a citadel for sharing strong and open-minded and divergent opinions. And I've thought that all of America could really learn a lesson for how to engage in civil and constructive debate from this 106-year-old institution. And like I said, I've seen a lot of people here today, and it's a proud moment for me to be standing up here. I always imagined myself giving a speech from behind the City Club podium. So now I can scratch that off my bucket list. Thank you. I also want to take an extra moment to salute the staff and the employees of College Now, as well as the board members and the donors and other supporters who have embraced the challenge of truly making dreams come true for so many people, young and not so young. You understand the importance of the access to education, and you've been willing to fight the fight for those who are disadvantaged in all the ways that you might define that. In the excellent College Now annual report, you talk about how income inequality is a barrier to moving up the ladder of success. And I could not agree with you more. It's a real thing. I was looking at statistics the other day, and in 2005, the bottom 90% of Americans earned just $34,000 a year. Now, you contrast that with the top 10%, which earned $313,000 a year, and you realize when you do the math, that's nearly 10 times more. To take it further, the top 5% earned $477,000, the top 1% earned nearly $1.4 million, and the top 1/10% earned a whopping $6.74 million. Now, there's no one here who doesn't understand the advantages that that kind of wage gap affords, and it continues to grow. A quarter of Americans earn $10 an hour, while many CEOs earn nearly 300 times the average worker. Now, I know better than to suggest that everybody should earn the same amount of money. I understand that. But the current income disparity that exists in this country is ridiculous. Now, think about it. $10 an hour is $19,200 a year. And the poverty level for a family of four is $24,600 a year. It's terrible that that disparity exists in this country, and we have to do better. One thing we know for sure is that having a college education makes a huge difference in earnings over a lifetime. The average starting salary for a person with a college degree is about $50,000 a year. We also know that college graduates can earn up to $1 million more than a high school graduate over the course of their lives. Is there really any doubt about the value of a college education, especially one that you can afford? I sincerely believe that graduates, that regardless of one's station in life, poverty isn't a predetermined destination. College can change that. It opens your mind to possibilities and experiences that allow you to dream and discover your better self. This is even true for the most advantaged among us. You meet people of diverse backgrounds, you encounter different perspectives, you come in contact with different value systems in an environment that is about as safe as any to make mistakes. Those 2 years or 4 years in college are the dry runs for a life as an adult. And while none of us is fully formed in college to become the person they are to be, the foundation is surely set there and is simply invaluable. When I was growing up, I wasn't poor. I didn't want for food or any of the other basic necessities of life, but I knew I was disadvantaged. For me, college was a means of escaping a potential life of struggle or working in a steel mill like my father. But it also was a point of pride in my family for me to be the first to get a college degree. I understood that since I was a very young child. My mother, I think I have to thank for that. She's supposed to be here tonight, but you know, it's hard to find a place to park around here. I'm not gonna blame her for this. But I have my mother to thank for this. She was the only one on either side of her family to graduate from high school, and she was determined that all of her children would do better than that. So I knew college was the ticket to a better life. That didn't mean I knew how to accomplish that, because in fact, I didn't. And that's how I entered the orbit of college now. You may have heard or read about my story, but I want to take this opportunity to give you a little more flavor, because my story is not just instructive or celebratory. It's really an important lesson in sort of the difference that one person and one institution can make in the life of an individual. And it's particularly fitting on this 50th anniversary of College Now. There are lots of me's out there, and you should be reminded of the good that you've done. So I attended Glenville High School, where I was a very good student. I'm not bragging, that's a fact. In 10th grade, I was kicked out of my English literature class after polishing off an essay about A Tale of Two Cities. And I was harassing my friends who were still working on their essays and mocking them for not finishing as fast as I did. Finally, this young teacher, she had had enough of that and called me up to the front of the class. And after demanding that, I bring my books, she told me to leave the class and to never come back. She said she didn't care what I did with my newfound time, but I didn't belong in her class anymore. I was cool with that. I mean, not having to take English any longer, and, I was like, hey, that's great. I'm going to use my time, and I'm going to run the school movie projectors, and that's what I started doing. So soon I was rolling around a projector to the various classes and threading film for, in-class movies, and I thought I had tested out of English. And then I would be running projectors for the rest of the 7th period for the rest of the school year. But a few days later, however, I received a letter telling me that no, things aren't going to be that easy. And that from now on, I would have first period honors English class, and I had never had first period anything. I mean, my day did not start till 9 a.m. I remember walking into that honors English class with all those eggheads and being completely overwhelmed. But I buckled down and I did the work. I rose to the level that my teachers and my parents absolutely believed that I could achieve. Not long after, I was in honors chemistry and I was taking advanced math classes too. It was a struggle, but I did it and I felt great. I finished in the top 10% of my class, and Glenville was a huge school. There were about 500 students in my senior class and about 2,000 students overall back in the day when Glenville was huge. As the president would say, huge. Yeah, I'm thankful that College Now arranged for me to visit my high school this morning, as you heard. I had a chance to talk to the AmeriCorps workers and other people from the College Now staff. It was really a great two-way conversation. It was the first time I had been back in that building since I graduated in 1972. That's about 42 years. And as I walked the halls and took photographs and reminisced, I was just looking around in gratitude for all the good things that happened to me there. Despite all that good fortune, however, I still did not know how to grab the reins of my future. Then there was that fateful day when a guidance counselor sent a note to everyone in our class asking us to make appointments the next week. Being the know-it-all that I was, or really the know-nothing that I was, I actually said to myself that I didn't need any guidance, and I ignored the notices. It's like, let somebody else take my slot. I don't need any help. I'm a good student. I found out when I was talking to my mother over the weekend when I was visiting here that my mom didn't even know that I had done that. Sorry, Mom. About 3 months later, my fellow students in English class, they were waving around their letters and indicating where they had been accepted to college. Others piped up that they were going to Ohio State, others were going to Hampton, others were going to Princeton. Finally, someone turned to me and asked where I was going. And I said, I don't know. Besides, when did you guys apply to college? I thought what you did was you applied to college after you graduated from high school. They laughed and they reminded me that, do you remember that day when you were giving the teachers all that guff about going down to see the guidance counselors? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, that was the day that we met with the college recruiters. So I realized then that I had messed up, and boy, my mom was going to really be mad. But the truth was, I didn't know anything about applying to college, and I think you heard a little bit about that from the director. Like I said, I thought that you applied to college after you graduated from high school. You took the summer off, figured out where you wanted to go, and I didn't know anybody had gone to college, so I had no idea about what you were supposed to do. So after that day in class, when I found out my classmates were going to all these great colleges, I immediately ran down to the guidance counselor's office. And you can imagine, they were kind of PO'd at me, right? They had been trying to get me to do the right thing for months, and I was resisting because I thought I was smarter than everybody else. So I get down to the guidance counselor's office, and my regular guidance counselor, and her name was Miss Watkins, she was busy, but there was this young woman standing in a cubicle who said, hey, I'm open. So I rush in and tell her my predicament. I explained to her that I was a good student who wanted to go to college, but that I had messed up and I had missed the previous sessions for college recruitment. And I was wondering if she could help me make an application. Wow, she said, it's kind of late for that, but I'll try. So we talked about who I was, and she told me that she was a counselor with the Cleveland Scholarship Program. She explained she wasn't really affiliated with Glenville High School, and she didn't want to step on anybody's toes. And she said she was there to help students apply for what was then probably called gap financing, so they could make sure that students had the funds they needed to go to college. She said, look, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but she'll try to help me. And obviously, I was a nice guy, right? So first, she got all my information, and I want to take you through the detail because it's the kind of effort when you're doing your job that makes a difference in other people's lives. So first, she got all my information for what was then called the PCS, the Parent Confidential Statement, and it was a financial aid application. And she went to work the next day trying to get me qualified for aid. Later, she suggested a few colleges for me, and since I wanted to be a social worker, she got me a quick visit to a college in Illinois. And the school that I went to visit literally rose up out of the woods from nothing. It was a brand new college. It was called George Williams College. And now it's probably known as one of the best social work schools in the country. But when I got back, I told her, look, I don't really want to leave the state to go to a school like that. That's in the woods, you know, brand new buildings. No. So she thought for a minute, and she dialed an associate dean of admissions that she knew at Ohio Wesleyan University, and I'll never forget, you know, you should have heard her sort of selling my talents to that man on the telephone. You would have thought like I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, I remember at the end of the conversation, she said, you'd be lucky to have him. So when she hung up the phone, I said, like, why'd you say all those great things about me when you don't even really know me? And she said something I've never forgotten. She said, if you aren't willing to barter for yourself, no one else will. And it's one of the greatest lessons I ever learned in life. Life is a negotiation, okay? You got to be the best advocate for yourself. And I carried that with me, and I do this very day. Anyway, that woman was Miss Carolyn Beeler. And she got me a date to go down to Ohio Wesleyan, where that June in 1972, after admissions had been closed for the class of 1976, I was greeted and taken around the campus. And after that weekend, I came back and I told her, look, that's where I want to go. So a month later in 1972, I was accepted into the class of 1976. After applications had been closed, after grants had been given, and the help didn't stop there. I think I still have receipts of payments that CSP made toward my tuition, and I needed every bit of help that I could get. Ms. Beeler at Pride opened the door for me to realize my dream in the most improbable of ways. I don't believe that I would have gone to college, and I certainly would not have gone to a college of the caliber of Ohio Wesleyan without her extraordinary efforts. And I know without a doubt that I wouldn't have lived the life that I have without Ohio Wesleyan, and I wouldn't be standing here today. So after I graduated, I spent about half my life looking for her. By the time she came back into view, I had been a journalist for more than 30 years. I had worked in Dayton, Ohio, and then Cleveland as a reporter and editor. I had gone on to the Boston Globe in 1986 and climbed the ranks of that great newspaper, becoming the only African American to serve as managing editor, and that was the job that I had done for 8 years. In 2002, I was hired as the editor of the Denver Post, where I worked for 14 years, leading the newspaper, as you heard, to 4, not just 4, but 4 consecutive Pulitzer Prizes. I like that, consecutive. Only the New York Times has done that. Thank you. In appreciation for the opportunities that have been afforded me, I was really into volunteering and mentoring and serving on boards to give something back. And one of those efforts involved serving on the boards of trustees for Ohio Wesleyan University, my alma mater. While at a board meeting, it was maybe 8 years ago, a young recruiter in our admissions office approached me with a card. And she told me that she had met a woman at Beechwood High School, and when the woman saw her tag from Ohio Wesleyan, she asked her if by chance she had ever met an old student of hers. The recruiter just piped up and went, yeah, I know him. He's on the board of trustees. Everybody knows Greg. So what a joyous occasion it was to talk again with Miss Beeler. We had been reconnected. We laughed, we talked about old times, we got caught up, and then I thanked her for saving my life and asked her what I could do to repay her. Anybody that knows Miss Beeler, they know that she's a really humble person. She's a really humble person. And she said, look, all I want you to do is come to Beechwood and talk to my kids. And I was like, cool, I'll do that. So I ran up there, I talked to her kids, but in my mind, that will never be enough. And that's partly why I'm here this evening. I wanted all of you to give Miss Beeler a hand, okay? Give her a hand. I am so proud to be able to once again thank her publicly for not just doing her job, but for going beyond the call of duty. Her example proves that everyone can change the trajectory of someone's life through their work. And it's not just a job if you do it right. She made a difference, you can make a difference, and everybody needs to remember that. So I have to say, college was an eye-opener for me, okay? I mean, getting there was just sort of part of the journey. And I think that's my family. Cool. Hi, Mom. We're gonna let you sit down. That's my mom, that's my sister, that's my niece, that's my grandnephew. Thank you all for coming. I know it's hard to find a place to park. Hey, Brian. Hi. Going back to Ms. Beeler, I'm so proud to be able to once again thank her publicly for not just doing her job, but for going beyond the call of duty. Her example proves that everyone can change the trajectory of someone's life. You gotta take your job, do it right. You can make a difference. Everyone can, and like I said, it's important for us all to remember that. So college was really an eye-opener, right? Getting there was just part of my journey. When I got to Ohio Wesleyan, I had only briefly been in a classroom with white students in my entire career. I went to segregated schools. I had never met anybody from the East Coast. I didn't even know what a prep school was. No idea. And though I was an honor student, I didn't even know how to study. I knew how to do homework, but I didn't know how to study. And I experienced all of that more at Ohio Wesleyan, and I grew. I traveled to Washington, D.C. For the first time I saw the White House. I went to Boston with classmates to participate in my first protest against busing violence. I starred in a school play. I mopped floors in the student union. I went mountain climbing, and I co-founded my own student newspaper when I was at Wesleyan. But I also discovered who I could be. And I learned that I was witty, that I was charming, and that I was smart. Now, that's not to say that it was all rosy. I was on academic probation after my second semester because of that darn school play. But college gave me the desire and the wherewithal to dig deeper about who I was. Equally important, I began to dream about who I could become. And I fought through all those difficulties. Today, after a rewarding 40-year journalism career, I'm a bit of an entrepreneur now. I own a small stake in a strategic knowledge distribution company that works with chief executives and helps them produce op-eds that we later get published in Fortune and Forbes and other legacy publications, and we also work with them to see who interacts with that content, and we drive clients back to their business. It's pretty good. It's novel. And it's work that really fits with my skill set. So I'm happy. I don't miss newspapers. I'm happy to be home for dinner, which is something that hardly ever happened to me in my previous career. So it's all good. But I'm also very active, I have to say, in the fight to save local journalism. And I've earned a voice on that issue, and I want to use it. I want to digress for just one moment and talk about this issue because I think it's very important, and what's happening here is happening across metropolitan areas all across this country. So to digress for just a moment, I want to say in the most emphatic terms possible, that what's happening to local news and what's happening to newspapers in this country is a crime. Journalism is a vital part of our democracy, and we need reliable reporting more than ever. And that's not a partisan statement, that's not a political statement, that's a statement of fact. We're at a crossroads, though, and I'm not sure at all that journalism as we know it is going to survive. I pray that it does, because otherwise we will have more Flint, Michigans. And I think you all know what happened in Flint, Michigan, where the government poisoned the water of its own citizens. Why? Because nobody was watching. We will still see, I fear, a decline in political participation if we begin to lose the powerful local press and our newspapers and the coverage that they provide for these new voices and these new ideas. I think that it'll become harder, and there's evidence to document this, for people to get elected to public office and they won't be able to get any traction. So we all have an interest in having a vibrant local news operation. And I dare say, if that happens, people may not care about what you do at College Now. So I want to urge all of you to support your local news organizations, to subscribe to the newspaper, to watch the news programs on TV, to pay for content. I need you to pay for content. And I want you to demand that greedy owners reinvest in the news products that they own, or they need to get out of town. Tyranny thrives in an information-starved environment. Like anything else of value, it costs money to be informed. A free press is not free, and it's up to all of us to support it. So understand this. If your local news organization or your local news operation disappears, it will not be recreated. The trust between you and your newspaper or your news organization took more than a century to solidify. Your grandparents probably read The Plain Dealer. The model that we have may be broken, but this doesn't have to be the death knell of journalism. Help us find a way to save it. That's the message that I'm sharing everywhere I go. Hashtag News Matters. Please use it. There's just one other thing. I want to send a message to young people, and I know there are not a whole bunch of kiddies around, and you all are young, but there are not a lot of kiddies around. So, take this message to your kids and your grandkids and great-grandkids. But the message I want to send is this. In order to be all that you can be, you have to be able to dream it. And to do that, you have to be exposed to things you don't know. College is the place where you can unlock your potential. And please resist the silo of accepting information that only confirms what you already believe. Start now, tell them, start now, because college will open the aperture on the world for you, and it will ignite a lifelong love of learning. College Now remains in the vanguard on that score. Its annual report really resonated with me. Education is maybe the most essential means to breaking the cycle of poverty and ignorance and eliminating the plague of income inequality. You just need the opportunity. We cannot afford to leave anyone behind. We need everyone in America to develop to their full potential. And to believe otherwise is to not understand the competitive nature of the global village we live in and the problems we face. I'm an optimist, and I remain hopeful about the future. Each generation has its challenges and makes a contribution, good and maybe not so good. I like what I've seen of the millennials. That generation is not nearly so self-absorbed as my own, and they're certainly not as entitled. I believe that this generation, which has gone through Columbine, the Great Recession, Parkland, and Ferguson, will create monumental change. It will change the dynamic of race in this country because it is the most culturally competent and multi-generational generation ever. It will change our politics because it has suffered so much at the hands of special interests. And it will change our social structures because of Me Too. And it will take better care of our environment. The generation behind that one is by far the most technologically savvy. And I believe that it will make huge strides in solving the current problems around energy and ecology so that we can explore this galaxy for the wonderment and advancement rather than out of fear we will destroy the planet that we have. So education is the core of all these possibilities and promise. To all of you who support College Now, I say don't get tired. You are making a difference, and you need to keep fighting. And as you do, think about me. It's worth it. Thank you. I get free stuff? Okay.
Sort of. Not exactly, but you'll like this.
All right.
Thank you for being here. As a token of our appreciation, though, we have established the Greg more scholarship at College Now. It will be given this year to a CMSD student that is pursuing a degree in journalism or communications.
Awesome. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We got to take a picture of this. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to wrap up quickly here, but I do have a couple things I want to share. First of all, sometimes when I'm out in the community, most people think this is, godmother and apple pie and everyone loves it, but, there are naysayers. There are people like, college isn't worth it. College is too expensive. Why are they doing it? We're wasting money. These kids can't succeed. I hope tonight, if you're left with anything, is to know everybody can succeed. It's a question of making sure they've had the supports. College Now is going to go into a second 50 years. I'm blessed to lead the work, and we're very hopeful for the future. We believe our region, our leaders have finally gotten the connection that we're not just helping kids from disadvantaged backgrounds go to get post-secondary credentials, but we're changing the trajectory of our economy, which is so sorely needed. Ohio is not doing well around these issues. And so the question is what? What's next? Well, I'm also proud to tell you that we've been a convening partner in an initiative that you're hearing about called Say Yes to Education, led by our mayor and our county executive, and Ron Richard and his team at the Cleveland Foundation, and CMSD and Eric Gordon and his team, and United Way and College Now, and many others in the room, some of whom have yet to really come forward. We are working on something that we believe will change the long-term trajectory of our kids. And it provides a system where we really understand the needs of the kids, and we make sure that their social, emotional, educational, after-school, parent issues are dealt with so they can focus on their education. So we can help them understand, would they be a good welder, or should they get a PhD, or should they go on and run a newspaper? And then we couple it with last dollars. And so that is just one of the big things out there. We are so proud to be innovating again as part of that work. And we're just glad you're here tonight. Thank you. You're all friends, your family, and we hope you'll stick with us and know how grateful we really are. Thank you. Good night.